Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. My name is Sharvari Jois, and I'm the Senior Manager for Pre-Arrival and Mentoring Services at JVS Toronto. JVS offers employment services to people of various backgrounds, and we have lots of different programs for newcomers. So once you arrive, if you're arriving in Toronto, please look up our website and see if there are services that you can benefit from. I'm going to quickly take a few minutes of your time and then introduce the speakers. To begin with, we will do a quick land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on as the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Okay, a few items in terms of the webinar housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded and the length of the webinar is approximately 1 hour. All the participants, we would request you to please keep your lines muted. Feel free to unmute yourselves if you want to ask questions later on when we have time for questions and answers. The Q&A session, there will be opportunities at the end, maybe about 15-20 minutes. Please do type your questions in the chat window. If you can send it to me and let us know if you are interested in asking the question, we will be happy to unmute you. Please do take your time to complete a post-webinar survey. This is how we get to know, what else we can offer to our participants. The recording will be shared and it'll be posted on our blog as well. If you need more information, please do contact your Canada InfoNet employment specialist. And we are all joining this webinar from home, and I can guarantee you there will be some glitches, some technical difficulties. So please be patient with us. Appreciate it. Okay, quick introduction to Canada InfoNet. Many of you are aware we do offer pre-arrival employment acceleration and mentorship services. It is a free national program for 8 weeks delivered by JVS Toronto with other industry partners. We've supported over 8,000 English and French-speaking immigrants since 2016. A dedicated employment specialist support professionals arriving in the next 12 months with employment services, such as employment preparation and job search tools, connection to a mentor in Canada. And this is such a unique aspect about our program, where you do have the opportunity to be connected to a professional in your field, in your province of arrival. And if you need more information, again, if you're already registered with the program, please do contact your employment specialist. If you're not, and if you're outside the country, we would love to support you. So please do register, or we can connect you. If you're already in Canada, we can connect you to other JVS services. We also offer supports with resume and cover letter for Canada, Canadian workplace culture and expectations for success at work, and of course, many webinars, informative webinars from employers, industry experts, and other immigrant journeys where you can learn from. And we also offer online job matching platform where you have access to job postings and you have opportunity to participate in virtual job fairs. And of course, we do offer soft skills training in customer service and business writing. If you require more information, please do connect with your employment specialist. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you all to our lovely speakers for today, Kate Johnson and Oscar Cesena. Kate is a podcast host, content creator, and events manager. She's originally from England, and she's lived and worked long-term in 5 different countries. So she has quite a bit of experience with immigration, right? After graduating with a BA in English from Bournemouth University, Kate built a career in event management and regularly executed large-scale trade shows, weddings, and corporate conferences. In 2017, Kate went backpacking in Southeast Asia and she met her significant other, which led her to move to Canada. After moving to rural Ontario, Kate decided to use her event management experience to launch a networking event and 30-booth trade show Expo for Toronto's international newcomers. Since the pandemic, Kate has launched the Newcomer Collective, a digital home where internationals can listen to each other's honest real-life stories through weekly podcast episodes and connect at monthly social events. Welcome, Kate. And then I would love to introduce Oscar Cesena. He's worked in tech for over 20 years for various companies, from startups to international organizations. Currently performs as a senior customer success manager at LinkedIn. Oscar moved from Mexico City to Toronto in 2013 with his wife. As a newcomer, he looked into shifting his career to human resources, but after completing his certificate and working for a year in the industry, he decided to return to what he loved most, technology. Early in 2019, he decided to start a podcast called Immigrants of Toronto to help the immigrant community. He shares stories of people who choose to leave everything they knew behind and call Toronto home. His podcast has been featured in several media outlets, including CBC. Besides his job and podcast, Oscar loves reading, writing, photography, and video games, among other things. Welcome, Oscar. All right. With that, I'd give the floor to Kate for her presentation.
Hello. Okay, let me share my screen. Let's see if we can get this working. Make sure that everyone can see that okay. Are we good?
It's awesome.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for the introduction. And yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here and to meet all of you. As you mentioned, my name is Kate Johnson. I am the founder of the Newcomer Collective, which is an online collection of stories and resources for newcomers to Canada. I am from England, if you couldn't tell, and I moved here in 2017. So coming up to my 5-year anniversary, really exciting. That's going to be on January 3rd. So just it's flown by, but I'm really excited to be here and sharing the lessons that I've learned in the 5 years that I have lived here. So my topic today is something that I am very passionate about. So if I speak too fast, just let me know, because I get so passionate and I just want to talk more and more about this. So let's dive right in. So coming right up, I'm going to touch on my story because it's important for you to know why I'm qualified to be here today. And then I will run through my career path since moving to Canada, so the challenges that I faced. And then the title of the webinar, I am the perfect example of stepping outside of my comfort zone and thinking more creatively to try and carve a path here for career-wise in Canada. And then I will finish on some mindset shifts, which is what I'm super passionate about. You know, you can check off these conventional to-dos, you know, oh, I've done my paperwork, I've bought my winter coat, you know, all of these tasks. But I found in my personal experience that if you go into an experience like moving to a new country with the wrong mindset or the wrong expectations, you can really self-sabotage, and it's so preventable if you just take the time to make little mindset shifts to set yourself up for success. So I will dive right in. Okay, so this is me, January 2017. This is the first photo that I took in Canada. As you can see, my face is super red. I'd never experienced cold like it in my life. I'd moved to a tiny rural town in Ontario. This is my boyfriend, now fiance's parents' forest, so really in the middle of nowhere. So I just wanted to explain who I was in this photo in 2017. So the girl that you are looking at in this photo, I'm a 25-year-old backpacker. So I had been traveling. I left England and I was exploring Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. And when I was in Thailand, as Sharvari mentioned, I met a Canadian and we hit it off and we traveled together, ended up in Australia. lived and worked there for a year. And then we decided, okay, we should probably be adults. We've run out of money and we should settle down somewhere. So we had to decide England or Canada. And as you can see from this photo, I'm so excited for another adventure. And I'd never really thought about Canada. It had never been on my radar, but here I was, and I was excited to see where he was from and explore Canada. So that's me. I had no winter clothes. As I mentioned, I'd come from Australia. So all of these clothes in this photo were my mother-in-law's clothes that she'd lent me. I was a city girl through and through. I'd grown up in England, very busy country, triple the population of Canada, a tiny island, so lots of people. I had lived in London, so I was very much the city girl. Career-wise, I had 4 years of event management experience at that time. So I'd graduated. I had done some really exciting internships in London. Most excitingly, I'd worked at the British Independent Film Awards. So I'd met Tom Hardy and Julie Walters, and that's my claim to fame there. And I loved the events industry. I was in for the fast pace, no day is the same kind of industry. So the role that I had left England was my hotel event manager job. So I was doing weddings and trade shows, again, very fast paced, loving that events industry. And I moved to Canada. So fast forward to today. This is me, December 2021. As I said, 5 years, it's just flown by, but I now work full-time as a marketing and design manager. So a completely different industry. There are events littered throughout that, but the most of my job is now marketing and design. And the company that I work for is so in line with the passions that I have, and I'm really fulfilled in my career today. I'm flexible, so my job is flexible, and in the 5 years since I've moved here, I've really found that to be such a priority for me. You'll discover more and more about what you want and your values when you do such a big move like this, but I can take this job anywhere. So I love that. I can go and visit my family in England and take my job with me. And I have the spare time and energy to work on my passion projects. So most notably, the New to Canada podcast. I'm so proud of it. I'm sure me and Oscar will talk more about podcasting, but I love that I have the time to do something that I really enjoy on the side. And I have built my personal brand around newcomers to Canada. So I have brands and lovely people like Sharvari approaching me to share my lessons. And I'm really proud of really positioning myself as an expert in this field. So that's me. So how did I get from 2017 Kate to today, Kate? I want to really run through my career path and the challenges that I faced, because these are lessons that are really simple, and it's those mindset shifts again that I'm excited to share with you so that you can get there a lot quicker than it took me to get here. So, okay. As I mentioned, I am in the middle of nowhere in Ontario, and I was a city girl. So when I first moved to Canada, that was a big shock for me, because I assumed that I would work in Toronto, right? That's where all the big event venues were. That's where all the big events are. So I assumed, okay, I'm going to look for events jobs in Toronto. So my first mistake was I set a job alert for myself on Indeed for any job that had the word events in it. Looking back now, that's a big lesson that I learned. One job could have multiple job titles. So I definitely hindered all of the opportunities that I could have found for myself by filtering it with that word, but that's what I did. And I quickly found a job in Toronto, doing conferences in Toronto, and it was really exciting. But yeah, it quickly came crashing down, because my commute was a 40 minutes drive to the nearest train station, to then sit on the train for an hour into Toronto, to then walk through Union Station to the subway, which is 15 minutes or so in rush hour, to then sit on the subway to wherever my office was. So you're talking a good 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. That's 4 hours a day that I was commuting to this new job. And a lot of people do it, and that's amazing for them. You can read lots of good books, but for me, that wasn't the life that I wanted personally. I was missing time, you know, just in the evenings to unwind, and it wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. So that was the biggest challenge straight away out of the bat. I was in a new location that I completely didn't expect this would be a challenge. So challenge 2. I was defeated. You know, what was I supposed to do? Events was everything I'd ever known. You know, this was all that I was really good at. And yeah, all of the big events are going to be in the city. There were no real event venues around where I was. So there was that. And then there is this negative cloud around job searching as a newcomer, which, you know, it's really important to talk about. You know, you can get really caught up in it where it's like, okay, I'm new, and it's going to be really hard, and it's really hard to find a job here, and everyone struggles, so I'm going to have to settle. So I ended up settling. Oops, someone's got their microphone on. So I ended up settling a lot. I did quite a few jobs that, you know, had the events word in it, but it wasn't really events. They weren't really bringing me joy. I'm very grateful for them because I ended up getting my permanent residency from it. So I never regret them. But again, I definitely settled, and I struggled a lot to find a job that I felt fulfilled in. So let's get to the good stuff. I struggled like this for 3 years. Okay. I was doing jobs that I just came home at the end of the day and I didn't have the passion there. And I just thought, okay, enough. I want to do something that brings me joy, that I'm passionate about. What is an area that I can really feel happy in and helping and doing, you know, showing my skills in? And I thought, why don't I help other people like me, you know, newcomers to Canada? Let's try it out. And what better way to do that than to showcase my skills, put them out there and create my own event? Because, you know, there's no event opportunities around me, so I should just create my own opportunities. And that's what I did. I created Expat Expo, very amateurish logo. You know, I was just me. I created this event. I took my savings and I booked a venue. It was the Toronto Reference Library. And I approached brands and I basically put on a trade show for newcomers to meet with different resources and network. And it was fantastic. You know, I had Desjardins, CIBC, Student Life Network, immigration lawyers. I had a bunch of different brands there. You can see my tree, my encouragement tree, where newcomers could write encouragement to each other and put it on the tree. You can see the volunteers here, where there's a big map and people were putting stickers where they were from. And by the end of the day, there were stickers all over the world. It was an amazing event. And I was just so proud of myself that I just put myself out there and I did something. And it was the first time that I really felt so happy and doing something that I loved in Canada. And I ended up just breaking even. So with the sponsorships and things like that as well. So it was totally worth it. And when I say that this one event changed my career, changed my life really in Canada, I'm not exaggerating. I made so many connections from it. I continued those connections with these brands on LinkedIn and nurtured those relationships. But most importantly, I had 3 major job offers come from this one event that saw what I could do. And I was an event manager and I'd shown what I could do in events. And it was from there that I now have this job that I love today. They found me through this event. So that's a perfect example of, you know, trying to think a bit more outside of the box and think, okay, if just sending out all of these job applications isn't working, what can I do to put myself out there and create opportunities for myself? So today, just very quickly, we'll jump into podcasting with Oscar later, but I have my podcast, like I mentioned, started it in September 2020 because I was hoping to do the expo, the trade show every year, but obviously the pandemic hit. So I thought, how else can I create those connections? So I have guests from over 30 countries so far and absolutely love sharing the stories over on the podcast. And I have my community, the Newcomer Collective. We have virtual social events every month where we just get together and have a great time chatting and hearing all different accents from around the world, and discounts, brand partnerships, and really exciting things coming in 2022 with some products as well. So really happy with where I am today. I found my passion doing that event. I want to help newcomers, and that's what I'm doing. So very quickly, I just realized because I'm full screen, I probably won't see the chat, but if you could please just pop your answer in the chat box. What are you passionate about? It could be an industry, it could be a field of interest, it could be a group of people, like in my case, newcomers to Canada. It's really important for the engagement. If you could just pop that in there. I really want to see some areas that you're passionate about. So I'll give it a couple of seconds. I wonder if I can see them or not. Oh yeah. Oh, communication design, love that. Teaching languages, yes. Web development, yes. Video editing. Immigrants, same. Yes, customer relations, banking, amazing. So you guys all know what you're passionate about. That's incredible. Yes, problem solving, analytics. Okay, so this is your first mindset shift. Okay, so you know your passion, you know what you want to achieve in your life. How can you create opportunities for yourself? As I mentioned, my example of creating that event, it's all about thinking outside of the box. How can you build your own portfolio and showcase your skills? Because you can write a resume as everyone does, right? But there could be ways that you can put yourself out there proactively and bring people to you. So there's a bit of a shift there where you think, okay, it's actually on me to think about those things and to, allow people to find you and showcase your skills. Okay, second question. There's only 3, so this is the second out of 3. What advantages do you have as a newcomer to Canada? So what skills or positive things do newcomers bring to Canada? It's really, really important to understand this, because like I mentioned, there's such a negative cloud around it sometimes that we have to start from scratch and we have to settle. It's really, really important to know what advantages we bring. Diverse experience, yes, pretty, definitely. You know, we have so much to offer in that respect. What else? Okay. Yes, multiple languages, definitely. Lots of experience from across the world. Yes, adaptability, definitely. You know, you've moved to a new country. That's the best way to see how flexible you are, for sure. So this is your second mindset shift. International experience is an asset. Okay, so don't fall for this, you know, that you have to start behind and sacrifice, and it's going to be a huge struggle, because that's never going to get you the passion and the drive to put yourself out there. So you have to make a list of all those values that you have, and an employer would be lucky to have you as an international person. As we mentioned, you know, you have multiple languages, you have different experiences and different viewpoints and different skills. So definitely think about it in that way. You know, I just think that's so, so important. So that's the second mindset shift. Okay, and then finally, this is the last question, and then I'm wrap it up. So what emotions or challenges do we face when we move to a new country? So I'd mentioned that obviously there are a lot of things that we have to ignore in some respect, the negativity, but there are real emotions and challenges that we face as a newcomer. So what can you expect to face there? I've lost my chat, but I'm sure people are answering really well. Okay, so my final point is that you have to expect and accept the roller coaster of challenges and triumphs. It's going to happen, and it's not spoken about enough. It really isn't. You see, you know, on Instagram, on social media platforms, everyone's sunshine and rainbows. It's a huge adventure. But yes, nobody talks about the days where you're really homesick, or you're just not hearing back from employers, or you're feeling a bit isolated, lonely, all of these emotions. But then you'll have days where you absolutely love your new life in Canada as well. So it's really, really important to just go into the experience expecting that this is going to happen and just then accept it, ride it out and maybe sit with it and figure out, okay, what do I need in this situation to improve? So it's all normal and it's all part of the journey. So that's the final mindset shift that's really helped me. Okay, that's it from me. Over to you, Oscar.
Thank you very much, Kate, and thank you, sure. Thank you, the team. I want to say and thank the team for inviting
Sharvari.
me. Sharvari. I always have problems with saying people's names. Anyway, I'm going to start by introducing myself. So let me share my screen. Just let me know when you can see it. Okay, can you see it? Perfect. Okay, so it's funny. I like how Kate ended her speech talking about what you're passionate about and all that, because it's a great segue to what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the importance of starting a passion project. Before that, I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Oscar Cesena. I host the Immigrants of Toronto podcast. And as you heard before, I worked at LinkedIn as a senior customer success manager. That picture is a bit old. As you can see, I'm a bit thinner in the picture in different glasses, but I still want to use that one because I'm going to be, it's like maybe 10 pounds lighter, that one. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and what happened 8 years ago when I moved here, even before that. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is, why did I decide to leave Mexico? So I grew up in Mexico. I lived there for 35 years. And at some point I realized that whatever I did to change the things that I didn't like, it was not going to work. Like I was outspoken about a lot of things that I wasn't, that I didn't really like about the country. So I decided, you know what, I think I'm too old to make a change. So instead of trying to change the place where I live, I'm going to move to a place where kind of fits with the way I think. So I did some research. I found Canada, and it's like, well, it's not too far away. It's like a 4.5 hour flight from Mexico City. If something happens, I can go back there. And then my wife and I talked, and we chose Toronto. And the reason why we chose Toronto is, like, we come from Mexico City. It's a huge city. I don't see myself living in a place without traffic, crime, all those things that we have in Toronto. It's the things that I like. Of course, not the crime and traffic, but you have access to so many things. You have great public transit. You can go to any restaurant walking distance. There's so many things that I like. So I decided to live here. So back then, we already decided to leave Mexico, and we knew where we were going to go. But then it actually happened. We arrived in Canada. And it was funny because I heard a lot of things about, well, what's going to happen with you? You're going to get a culture shock or something like that. And I was like, I don't think I will, because I'm prepared. I studied the country. I studied the history, a lot of things that I did before. But I actually came here and I faced the culture shock. It doesn't matter. It's not only the language. My first language is Spanish. So first of all, the language creates the environment that you live in. Like in Spanish, we talk a lot, and we talk a lot in circles, and we have words for so many things, and some other things we don't have words, so we have to describe them. So in English, you might use one word to describe something. In Spanish, you use 10 because we don't have that specific word. When I moved here, I realized that that's not only the language, it was also the culture. Like here, it's very straight to the point. When you're talking, you need to be concise, something that I wasn't. And I started understanding that, well, yeah, the culture is different. It doesn't matter that I worked internationally before. Like I worked with teams in the United States, in England, in Spain. It didn't really matter. Leaving the culture was completely different. So one of the things I found after that, it was not only the culture. I tried to adapt. One of the things I did was I avoided any contact with people from Mexico because I really wanted to get immersed in the culture. It was like, well, if I hang out with people from Mexico, I'm going to speak Spanish. I'm going to be really comfortable. What Kate was saying about the comfort zone is very, very important, because I didn't really want that. I wanted to stretch myself. I wanted to, if I'm moving to a country, I want to feel the culture. I want to feel that I belong here. And that's kind of what I tried to do. And I came as a student. So the first year I was sheltered under this student permit, not really needing to go and get a job or anything. But then after that happened, I had to go out and get a job. And I started here a certificate in human resources. And I tried to get a job in human resources. And I realized, like, well, I'm competing against people who have years of experience in human resources. I mean, I have years of experience, but not in human resources. So I realized that the only thing I could get was an entry-level job. I got it, but as I said before, like, one of the things that made me leave Mexico was I was very outspoken. I always speak, I always say what I think, and that can be a problem when you're an entry-level employee and you get into a fight with the CEO of the company. So, long story short, I got laid off, and it was a really difficult moment for me. I got laid off 2 days before the Christmas holidays. I was planning to go to Mexico, and I had to get into that plane without a job, without knowing what was going to happen. And to make things worse, my work permit would expire in June. So I had just a few months to get a job and be able to apply, because if I didn't get a job, I wouldn't be able to apply for an extension and then later for the permanent residency. So you can imagine the stress that I was feeling. I was fortunate enough that after that, I decided to go back into technology. It's like, well, this is where my expertise is. I've been working for, at the time, like 15 years in the field. I can get something. So fortunately enough, by the end of February, I got a job. So it was only like 2-3 months of huge stress. Sorry. But then after that, everything started getting a little lighter. Like, I got my work permit, I worked my permanent residency, I got a job, and I was super happy. But there was something I wasn't really, really happy. Like, I had fulfilled a lot of the things that I wanted, but some other things in my life were not complete. So I thought about, like, okay, now I have a job, I have a home, I can provide for my family. What's missing? So I started thinking about what I wanted to do, and I decided to start a passion project, which was my podcast. That happened in 2019. So you might be wondering, why a podcast? Well, there is something that I've been kind of obsessed with for the past few months, maybe over a year, for a while, and it's that thing is called Ikigai. So the idea of Ikigai is to achieve balance between the spiritual and the practical things in life. And as you can see in the definition here, the balance is found in the intersection where your passions and talents converge, and the thing that the world needs, and also that they're willing to pay for. Because, like it or not, we live in a capitalism system, and we need money, and we need to get paid for the things we do. This is easier to understand, I believe. So Ikigai is what you love at the top, what the world needs on the right, what you can be paid for at the bottom, and what you're good at on the left. If you're good at something and you get paid for that, then that's your profession. If you're good at something and it's what you love, then that's your passion. If what you love, it's also what the world needs, that's a mission. If you're doing something the world needs and you also get paid for, that's a vocation. All those things together achieve Ikigai. So I realized that, well, my work, I was good at my work and I was being paid for. But do I love my work? I do sometimes. But if you ask me, what would you do if money wasn't an issue in this world? I might not be a customer success manager. So I decided, you know what, my work is what I'm good at, what I can be paid for. So that's my profession. So as you see, before, even though I had a lot of things covered and my basic needs covered, I was missing something. I was missing what I love and what the world needs. So after that, I always write. Since I was a kid, I've been writing a lot, and I love writing, and I'm good at that. But nobody's paying for that, and I'm not sure if the world really needs to read my stories. But I do love it, and I'm good at it. So that's a passion that I have. And then comes the podcast. It's something that I love. I love meeting new people. I love engaging in new conversations, and I feel that that's something the world needs. It's something that, especially with immigration, like I was reading the comments that people were posting about the challenges of being an immigrant, and there's so many, not even in Canada. Canada is a very immigrant friendly country. Other countries are completely different. You might be called out for being an immigrant in the street, and that's normal. Here it's different, but still I think the world needs to hear the stories of immigrants. They need to understand that nobody really out of the blue says, you know what, I'm going to leave my country, I'm going to leave my family, I'm going to leave my friends, I'm going to sell my house, my car, everything that I own, I'm going to grab a couple of backpacks and go to a different country. Who does that? Well, we did it, but it's not something that you do just out of the blue. It's not a weekend plan. It's a life decision. So I thought that would be good. So what happened after I started the podcast is I started realizing that I was covering almost everything. It's like, well, I've been working, so I have my profession. I'm paid for that, and I'm good at that. I'm also writing, and I'm good at that, and I love it. And you know what? I also love helping people and sharing stories, and that's what the world needs. So I was covering all 4 items in my list, and that gave me a huge satisfaction. Like even now, like every time, sometimes I take breaks from the podcast, and I know that I'm missing something, and I think it's what I'm missing to feel that I'm having an impact on someone. Like the world needs this type of outlet. Like if you listen to hear somebody else's stories, what are you going to do? Well, just go to Kate's podcast, go to my podcast. There's so many other podcasts as well where you can hear stories and you can identify yourself with those. So for me, finding this ikigai thing was great, because in the end, everything worked together for me. And now that these are the main 3 things that I spend my day on. Like I work from 9 to 5. I do the podcast maybe a couple of hours, and I write for another couple of hours. And that gives me time to be with my wife, relax, read, play video games, whatever I want to do. But I feel fulfilled. By the end of the day, I feel that I'm doing something that matters. I mean, ideally, we would like to find one little thing that covers all. It's very hard. I know that there's a lot of people that have done it. For me, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I decided just, you know what, I'm going to have 3 things that complete me. And I have a question. Now that you've seen Ikigai and how that works, what does Ikigai means for you? And please go ahead and type the comments. I want to know what it means for you. Like if you would pick something from your life, even if it's maybe impossible, just what would that mean? Happiness, yes. I know it's like a philosophical question. I didn't want to go all the way there, but a really good way to get into this state of mind is by starting a passion project. And as I said, like I love how Kate grabbed that, and everybody already wrote what they're passionate about. But honestly, starting a passion project doesn't need to be hard at all. Just to give you an example, this is something that Kate and I prepared for you. These are our podcast studios. You can see I love Kate's desk. It's awesome. And she has achieved so many things with that podcast. And that's what we do. Like we have a computer. We were talking about this morning. We have a computer and a microphone, and that's it. You don't need a studio. You don't need a big camera, a super expensive microphone to do anything. You can just start doing your passion project, and the more you do it, the more satisfaction you will get, and you will achieve that state of ikigai that I was talking about. Anyway, you can see this is our studio. I love it. So
you Kate, can see my shoe bin. It's like a really effective table. It's because, you know why? I have a really nice desk where I'm sat now, but I just read online that you get better sound when you're in a closet. So I'm always in my closet, and then I don't have a desk in my closet. So I just pull my bin out every time, and we have a good laugh with my guests. But yeah, it's worked. You can't see it on a podcast. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And honestly, like if you think about, like, most people have a computer. Like if you want to start a podcast, you have a computer, you have a microphone. I know people that have been doing podcasts with the microphone that it's embedded on their laptop. So you don't really need high technology. You do not need to make a huge investment. You only need to decide to do it and just do it.
Yeah, my microphone I started off with was just over $100 from Amazon, and that was kind of a big investment for me because you just don't know how it's going to go. But yeah, I've upgraded since, and you can start small and see where it takes you. But yeah, I love that. We were supposed to have our simple studios, and yours is a little bit more professional than mine. But
to be completely honest, it's because this is like studio / office / gaming room. So yeah.
It's because I have really high ceilings as well, so it echoes. So the closet is the way I go. But yeah, no, I think going back to, I just love that Ikigai is the aim for everyone, I feel like. And you know, whether it's a podcast that you do or an event like what I did, or you know, if you want to just start your own website, you can start writing on a blog. It's just about getting yourself out there and just positioning yourself in a way that people recognize you and your name associated with that field or that passion, and then you can just build it from there. And there's so many ways that you can do it. And there's loads of free resources. You can go on Canva, LinkedIn. Just start contributing to your passion, really.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass this back to you, Sharvari.
Thank you. That was really so awesome. Thank you, Kate and Oscar. It was so inspiring and lots of good information there from your own personal journeys. So I want to remind everyone, please, we want to keep this interactive. If you have questions, post it in the chat window, or we could unmute you. You can ask a question. Before we go into questions, though, we have a fun activity planned. So we have a question for you. And if you all could go to menti.com and enter the code that's displayed on the screen, and give us your one-word response to the question. In one word, what stood out for you in today's stories? What is it that impacted you? If you could just use one word to describe that. We will do a word cloud in the end, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. But so we'll do the Q&A now. We'll do the questions. We'll do the that bit now. But in the end, we'll do the word cloud. So please take your time and please do participate in that. We are looking forward to it. With that, questions for Oscar and Kate. I have a question. Sorry. My colleague Lisha is also posting a link. You can use that from the chat window to, it goes directly to the word cloud as well. So please use that. Lisha, are you okay to spotlight all three of us now, or we could remove the spotlights as well if that works?
Yes, I'm going to remove the spotlight.
All right.
Things changed when I started sharing. Just a minute, sorry.
No worries. Okay, so question for both of you, Oscar and Kate. You have talked to, you've both had multiple seasons now with the podcast, and you've talked to a variety of different people. So from all of these different immigrant experiences, what stands out in terms of that one skill that you feel is essential for all immigrants to this country? Like, what contributes to their success? Can you think of what that could be, and if you have a specific example in mind, you could share that as well.
I can think of one that I feel that it's very important for everybody that moves to any country. It's resilience, and I've seen that with most of my guests. Like, doesn't matter how you come here. You could come with a job, and maybe you're an expat, and everybody is sponsoring your home. Everything there's going to be a challenge, and there's going to be some change. And being able to endure those changes and come across successful, that's I think that's the biggest skill that I can think of, resilience.
Awesome. And it's so true, because there's never it's actually not possible to prepare for everything the things that will change when you immigrate to a new country, right? Like, you can do a bunch of things. You can talk to people, you can prepare, but there will always be something that you did not expect, or it would shock you. So the only thing that can kind of get you through it, or help you, is kind of digging in deep and keep moving forward, right? That makes a difference. Kate, do you have anything to add?
Yes. I think for me as well, it's patience, because one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I came here was that I had these weird deadlines that I'd set for myself. I should have this job by now, I should have this many really close friends by now, and if not, I was disappointed by the progress I was making, and just thinking I was behind and I was failing. But everyone's timeline is different, and it's so strange. I think everyone in life sets these weird deadlines for ourselves, and there's no timeline to follow. Everyone's timeline is different, and these things take time. And I think when we move to a new country, we just expect everything to fall into place a lot sooner than reality, really. It takes a long time, sometimes months, sometimes years for some people, and it's okay. It's normal to wait that out, and it will get better. And yeah, just to keep that resilience, but patience as well.
Absolutely. And it also, in terms of immigration, it does create a strange stress situation for you, because there's a lot of expected and unexpected things influencing you, because you've moved to a new country and everything is new, and you did expect some things, but some things are new, and all of that pressure on you, and a lot of it is self-inflicted as well. If you're not patient with yourself, if you're not kind to yourself, and it can sometimes really bring you down. And that brings me to the next question in terms of mental health. Just wanted to get both of your takes on, what advice do you have, and how people can, anyone who's kind of either immigrating or has already immigrated, how do they take care of their mental health? How do they, because like I said, apparently in terms of life's biggest stressors, this is in the top 3, right? Moving to a new country is a huge stressor. So how can people take care of themselves?
Yeah, I think going back to my final mindset shift that I shared, it's really about just accepting the inevitability of the roller coaster that it will be. We have it set on such a pedestal that it's going to be this great adventure, and when it's not, some days it comes, it feels so much more like a failure if you're feeling a negative way, but it's totally normal. And I think, going back to your question, one of the biggest things I've learned from the podcast is every single guest that I've interviewed, and like what Oscar said, they have challenges. Everyone goes through it. There is not one immigrant that will come and not struggle at some point. So I think that's just a huge thing, to just if you have a bad day and you're struggling with your mental health, it's we all do, and it's all part of the journey, and you're putting yourself through such a massive life change. And yeah, it would be weird if you didn't. So I think it's just, to accept that, and yeah, it's a practice, but to sit with that and to think, okay, I need something in this moment. Something's not really lining up. What can I do in a situation to feel a bit more joy, or to just feel a bit better in that way? So to build that emotional maturity comes with some work as well. But yeah, there's tools like journaling or even just listening to stories like what me and Oscar share, and just to know you're not alone. That's really, really key.
Well said. Thank you.
One thing
Oscar,
I do. I think something that helped me a lot was to be flexible. And we all set deadlines. We all think about that our life is going to be like this in X amount of years. I think it's important to revisit those goals periodically, maybe once a month or something like that, because things change, right? Like you might, what if you decide, you know what, I'm going to buy a home in 2 years, but after the first year, you don't even have a job. So revisit those goals, be flexible, and understand that life, honestly, you cannot plan for the future. I mean, you can plan for the best case scenario, but it's important to be open to, I don't know, leave the worst case scenario.
Yeah. And don't compare, don't compare your journey to anyone else's. That's a huge thing. I would compare, first of all, I'd compare my new life to the life I'd left behind, which is totally pointless because, there's pros and cons to every single country you live in, including your home country. So, to fall into comparison between countries or between other immigrants or newcomers, it's just to focus on your own journey and stick with that, I think.
Yeah. And the interesting aspect about so through the Canada InfoNet program, we offer a lot of different supports and services, and we do talk to people immigrating to Canada about a lot of these factors. And we also tell them in terms of information, you have to take everything that comes your way with a pinch of salt, right? Like you may hear one thing here about your career, and tomorrow you may get a contradictory information. And, you have to kind of take it all in your fold and like come up with a plan for yourself. At the end of the day, it's your life and, your choices. And, there's like, it's so easy to get confused with everything that's happening around you. So just kind of being sure about, I think it's a great opportunity to kind of self-reflect and know what you really want to be doing and have a plan, but not also be fixated about it, right? So that's very important, I think. Can I ask Susanna? Susanna, you have a wonderful question. Feel free to unmute yourself. I can unmute you if you want to ask this yourself. Can you let me know? Do you want to ask this question to Kate and Oscar yourself?
Okay, thanks. So
Awesome.
first of all, thanks for your presentation. Usually we see a lot of resume tips or employment searching tools, but this is a more personal, easy to relate presentation. So just thank you for that. And my question was how to find the courage. Like, are there any tips or any suggestions on how to find, like how to overcome those fears and actually put yourself out there and start your own creative project if you don't find that you fit in any of the, job postings that you're finding out there? Like how to get yourself out there and start your own project?
Like from my perspective, I would say just do it. Like the quicker you get that out of the way, the better. Because a lot of the thing that happened is that we start thinking, the more we think about it, the more we are overwhelmed with it. Like it might be just, I don't know, like a little rock, but after we think about it for 3 months, it's just become like a huge boulder that we cannot even move. So as soon as you think about it, it's like, you know what, think about the worst thing that can happen, right? Like, let's say with the first time I did my podcast, what's the worst thing that can happen? Nobody listens to it. That's it. Like, that's it. I'm not going to lose anything. So just think about the worst case scenario. If you can live with the worst case scenario, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I think fear is the funny thing, we focus on what other people think, and we think that people are watching what we're doing and people are judging us and they're thinking, oh, Kate started a podcast and no one's listening to it. Ha ha ha. Like nobody is watching you and judging you and caring about what you do. They have their own worries and their own challenges. And you know, they might think that's weird and then move on to the next challenge they have. But the majority of people we celebrate each other. Think about, you know, the way that you look at me and Oscar and you think, wow, that's such a cool project. Like, everyone will always appreciate things that you're passionate about. And yeah, I just think I was exactly the same. I was worried about what people thought. Oh, she's starting a podcast, but that's just not the case. No one is doing that. So I think fear is just a lie. You should just do it.
Yeah, and
I want to
go
sorry.
ahead, Oscar.
Okay,
No.
I just want to add one little thing, and this is an outcome of what I did. So I started this podcast in 2019. I just changed jobs. I moved to LinkedIn, and the reason why my now boss reached out to me, because I was reached out by a recruiter at LinkedIn, was because of the podcast. What he said is like, we like your skills, that's fine, but you can find a customer success anywhere. But I like what you do. It aligns a lot with the company values. So I think you will not only bring your skills, like your hard skills of as a customer success manager, but you will also bring this values, this cultures, this passion to the company. So as you said, like, if you just do it, like,
yeah,
it can actually help.
And that event that I hosted, it's so funny looking back. It, like I said, my logo was kind of meh, and like I still had these great companies come, but then I was really, really disappointed with the number of attendees because it was just me and I didn't have a big marketing budget to spread word and get attendees to come. So I felt like it was such a failure at the time because I had all these great companies and not that many newcomers that actually came to the event. And I had all these great resources, but I had no resources to share the event. But even though it was a failure in that way, like I mentioned, I made those connections and I had job offers come from that because I was brave and I just put myself out there. I think it's going to have repercussions in a positive way, even if it does go wrong. So just think of it that way.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing that helped me was I'm quite an introvert, but like immigration helped me with that in some way because, like Kate said, nobody knows you here, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's about like, really, nobody cares. Like, nobody knows you, especially if you're moving to a big city or a tiny drop in an ocean. And so just don't worry about like what others will think or like, just sometimes have to do it. Just taking it one step at a time. And I think that makes a whole lot of difference.
And start really small. You know, you could start really small. If a big jump is feeling a bit too scary, you know, you could just start a blog, you know, just write a couple of things about something you're passionate about and throw it out onto the internet, and just start putting yourself out there with small steps and see where it takes you, because yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? I do have one. We have a minute to go, so I'll just ask the final one. I think somebody said that, you know, you're not alone. There are other stories similar to yours. I think also this is a great opportunity to reflect and see and turn this narrative in your head and say, what is it that I can offer as well to this new country I've come, whether it's volunteering or whether it's kind of, because there are others who may be feeling, if you're feeling alone, there are others who are feeling alone. So why not kind of, instead of just focusing on feeling alone, turn that around and say, you know, there are others who are also feeling alone and I can reach out to them. So any final thoughts on that, Kate and Oscar?
Yeah, I think that's a great, that's a great way to end it. Honestly, that's my big slogan. You go to the Newcomer Collective and it's "You're Not Alone" is the biggest kind of tagline on my homepage. So that's really my mantra, because like I said, that's the biggest thing I've learned talking to these people on my podcast, is that we all share the same challenges. It's insane. There's the same challenges, the same ups and downs. So I have a really great example of that as well. I was feeling really lonely because I was in such a remote place in Canada, and I was finding it really hard to like make real connections with people. Partly why I started the podcast, because it was a great way to connect with people, but locally, again, it's about thinking about how can I create that opportunity for myself, you know, not waiting for things to happen to me. And I started a paddleboarding group on Facebook. I just put it out there and I said, I really like paddleboarding. Does anybody else want to come paddleboarding with me? I don't know anyone. It's a tiny town. And I had, over 100 people join this Facebook group, and it's a tiny town. So it just shows that everybody is sitting and feeling this way. Everyone is sitting and waiting for these things to happen. And I just created that group, and I have small groups of paddling every week. Well, not now, the lake's frozen, but in the summer. So yeah, it's all about mindset shifts for sure. It's a journey.
Oscar?
I love numbers, so the only thing I can say is that statistically, half of the population in Toronto wasn't born here. So
yes.
1 out of 2 people you meet in the street are going to come from someplace else. So if you are that, I'm not that type of person that can go in the street and talk to someone, but you can reach out to people on LinkedIn, you can reach out to people on any social media platform, and most of the time they're willing to help. And now with COVID and everything that's going on, everybody's familiar with this type of interaction. So you can say, hey, can I steal 15 minutes? You send the Zoom link, and for 15 minutes, you meet someone. And that conversation might turn into an hour conversation, or worst case scenario, it might turn into a 5-minute conversation, but you realize that you don't have anything in common. But the good thing is that you're putting yourself out there. Yeah,
absolutely. And thank you so much, Oscar and Kate. This has been really, like you see from the word cloud, I think there's a lot of takeaways from this webinar. And, like Susanna mentioned, it's easy to, host kind of webinars about, resume or job search or specific like that. But I also wanted to kind of bring stories to people to show there's lots of different ways to think about immigration, about settlement in a new country. So I can see that there's been that impact. So thank you so much to both of you. Please do listen to their podcast, Immigrants of Toronto, and
that's mine.
And Kate, what is yours?
New to Canada. So if you search New to Canada, the New to Canada podcast on any podcast app, it'll pop up. And I did drop the link if you did want to join. I don't spam you. It's 1 month. I get an email. You get an email once a month with anything and everything that I want to offer you guys. So
awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me as well. So thank you both.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thank you.